So this has kind of been a long time coming. I've been on a journey with plant medicines for a couple of years, specifically ayahuasca, and I started out um, scared. I was I had an addiction um, that was really insidious, and I had a real hard time. I knew I didn't belong where in the places that I was, and I knew that I I expected better of myself, and I would find myself in really terrible places around sick people for days on end, and I was scared. I was scared. I tried AA, and certain things just didn't sit well with me. Some of it was probably due to my own personal resentment about, uh, like when I was in high school, I didn't really fit in much, and I kind of had a resentment against like clickiness and just clickiness, and I felt like an outsider at AA, even though people would welcome me. I just didn't feel welcome. So now I kind of realize that that was a reflection on me, that I didn't feel like I fit in, so I would see that in other people. But looking back on it, I tried. I tried for 3 years with AA, and it just, I didn't get any actual relief. Now, to be fair, I never actually did a full fourth step, which is where you really start to dig into your resentments and your traumas and your part in those resentments and all of that. So that, that, to be fair, I didn't get through all of the steps, but I would go to meetings every day, sometimes two a day. I went through, like there's a 90 and 90. I did something like 130 meetings in 90 days. I was being aggressive about it, but it just wasn't for me. And then I hit a bottom. I I did something that I'm really not proud of. I was supposed to take my son to the airport one day. He had spent 2 years raising money to go to Spain on a foreign exchange program. He was 16 years old, and I went out on a bender, and I was gone for days on end, and he was scared, and I was, he thought I might be dead. He didn't know where I was. Like, he was scared. And so my mom went ahead and took him to the airport, and he was very brave. I'm very proud of him. This is the date of when that happened, when he left for Spain without me. And that is Semicolon. Project Semicolon, if you don't know about it, take a look at it. It's a fantastic awareness type of thing. A lot of people have semicolon tattoos. It's called Project Semicolon, so check it out. But I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, like I'm sure a bunch of you have, and he talks a lot about ayahuasca in various different podcasts. So I thought, okay, I got to do this, and so I started researching, and it was going to cost thousands of dollars to fly down to Peru. And my son, he knew, at this point, I was sick and I was really wanting to get help. So he started to research, and he says, "Hey, Dad, there's a place right in Orlando." Well, I lived about an hour and 45 minutes away from Orlando, and I still kind of live there. That's my home base, St. Augustine, Florida. Before that, I was like, my mom was going to mortgage her house to be able to send me there because I had no money. I was desperate, and I really felt like I'll try anything. Well, so skip ahead. My son is so wonderful and so supportive. He decided to come with me. He was 18 years old, just turned 18. It was in May of 2017. And that was my first journey. my first weekend retreat at a place in Orlando called Soul Quest. Uh, I firmly believe that if I wouldn't have been dead by now, I would be in horrible shape right now if it wasn't for Soul Quest and it wasn't for Mother Ayahuasca. I, my life is turned around like you wouldn't believe. But I wanted to share with you my first weekend and the experience that I had there. So the first night that I drank the medicine, it wasn't incredibly overwhelming, but I was definitely in the medicine. And I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to be looking for. I didn't know what to do. And one time I was on my way to the bathroom, and I stopped and I looked in the mirror. And what I saw in the mirror scared the heck out of me, but not in a like I'm frightened type of way. More like I was very disturbed to my core when I saw it. So it was my face, one half my face, and it was like the other half of my face, it was superimposed. My father's face was superimposed over it. And it was kind of an aggregate age. So I had gray hair, he was younger, I was older, it was kind of in between. But it was like red and black, and I was looking into the face of a demon. And so I kind of observed it and checked it out. And then I went back to my mat. The next morning, there's something called integration. Integration is where everybody talks about their experience and gets it out. Well, I don't cry very often, and I definitely don't cry in front of people. But snot bubbles, bawling my eyes out in front of people describing it. I had no idea where this came from. So one of the wonderful, wonderful staff members, Dr. Scott from Soul Quest, love you, Dr. Scott. Thank you so much for that conversation. He helped me see that some of the things that happened in my childhood with my father, the fact that he worked so much and wasn't around, and all of these things that I had resentments about, that it made me who I am, a survivor, with some flaws and doing some bad behavior, but I was surviving. I figured out how to survive when my dad was just not around because he was working like 100 hours a week, leaving for Boston at 5 in the morning, etc. So we skip ahead to the next day, or that night, for the second ceremony, because it's a 2-ceremony weekend. And I was afraid of the mirror. I didn't want to go and see the mirror. And I could see all this stuff. I had to go back and forth to the bathroom a couple times, avoided the mirror, wouldn't look at it. And then all of a sudden, I just felt the urge to start oming. Om. And this purge came out of me that was, I could see like the visual representation of all the anger and the resentment and the fear and the doubt that came with the relationship with my father. And that thing hit my bucket, and I felt free. I felt free, finally, because this is a resentment that I had carried around. It was a daily resentment that was leading me to my addiction, or leading me to my drug of choice. So I heard this voice inside my head, and it said, "Hey, go meet your dad." It was my voice, but it wasn't from me. So I ran. 5 minutes before I couldn't walk, I ran to the mirror, and it was just me with a ear-to-ear grin, with the sun, like this light that didn't really exist, shining down on my face, tears streaming down my face, looking into the mirror saying, "I love you, I love you, I love you." And that was my first step on this beautiful, beautiful journey. Since then, I've journeyed many times, 28 times at this point. This is 2 years, a little over 2 years later, and it's been an amazing journey. I'm here to tell you that if you're suffering from something, some trauma, addiction, depression, PTSD, there's answers, there's help. There is help. Reach out to me. I love helping people. I really, truly do. It's been a blessing. It's truly been a blessing to be able to help people. And I hope my story maybe opens something up in your mind. Love you guys.